So, got this comment the other day, and not that you can see my hand gesture, but nevertheless, you get the idea. And it really got me thinking. I'm like, I'm pretty sure in my build. However, there's only one true way to find out. So, let's use a little math, figure this out once and for all. Now, if we talk about the build itself, and I don't want anybody to like roast anybody in the comments, keep the comments civil, guys, but I want to know for certain, how does this play out? Not necessarily like who's right, who's wrong, the mechanics of it. So, let's take a look and let's figure this bad boy out. So, the reality is, yes, you could use critical hit to get a just huge, phenomenal number on that big standby skill. You absolutely could. Me personally, I think by chipping away little by little and getting the extra attack and getting your evasion, personally, I find that to be a better tactic. But let's, like I said, let the numbers do the talking. So, number one, basically to read the passive skill, and I'm going to pick my phone, risk it disconnecting. So, attack and defense 200% plus an additional attack and defense 50% when HP is 50% or more, plus an additional blah, 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 blah. The important stuff is down here at the bottom, okay? So, we get extra attack damage as the second attacker. I'm not going to take that into account. I'm just going to run by the raw percentages, less the raw numbers. And I'll show you what that means here in a moment. But launches an additional attack that has a great chance of becoming a super attack if key is 18 or more. Launches an additional super attack if key is 24 or more. So essentially what this means, we're always going to assume key is 24, right? So that's going to give us 3 attacks, and we're going to presume that all 3 of those are super attacks, because in this situation, we're really just talking raw damage numbers. Now, in theory, with the way that I have mine built, you are 100%, not 100%, but most of the time, you're going to get 4 total attacks, most of which are going to wind up being SAs. So really, you're talking 4 total SAs per turn. Now, if we kind of go by the recommended build here, I'm going to presume we take away a little double attack, take away a little evasion, and put some into critical hit, and really buff that critical hit skill. Now, I'm going to honestly, and as I said before, you're not going to get much better than 50% critical hit. Anything you put into that skill really isn't going to go above and beyond the critical hit percentages that are already there. So, in that situation, essentially what we're looking at is we want to see, just real simply, if you get 3 attacks instead of 4, is there a bigger offset when you get the extra skill? So let's look at the raw numbers here. Okay, so I actually put everything through the system here to test this out, and I apologize, this is pre-recorded, but I did want to get all my maths just right on this bad boy. Now, I've given these guys maximum links. They have all the attack links in the world. The only thing they're lacking is tough as nails, as you'll see here in a moment, right there. And that is a defense link. That doesn't really do anything for their offense. It just is defense 20%, it reduces damage by 5%. It's not that big of a deal. Everything else is linked up, because that's really kind of the best team we've got here. And we're running the Legendary Freeze event, but notice here, that was a 15.3 million attack, and that comes out to be about, when you see the numbers we get over here in a moment, that comes out to be equated to about a 26.65 million attack stat. Now, what does this kind of realistically mean for our units? Well, if I'm totally honest here, and we did kind of do an attack over there. Now, I do have them over here in slot 1. That's going to negate their damage a little bit. I've actually equated this to slot 1 and slot 2. But to make the numbers right, I actually added everything up to the amount of damage they would normally be doing in slot 2. So here in slot 1, their first attack is a 9.212 million attack stat, which comes out to be about 5.317 million attack without the critical hit. You'll see all those numbers pop up here in a moment. However, if they were in the middle, that would have been north of a 10 million attack stat, roughly about 10.5 million attack stat. And you'll see that when we do the other run. So really, I kind of wanted to base my numbers off of if they were in their optimal positions to get the maximum attack, right? So what are we kind of talking about here, and why are we bringing this up? Well, you got to remember, these guys have a potential full damage output here. Now, unfortunately, in this particular run, they didn't do all 4 attacks, but we want to kind of equate this out, like, because most of the time it's a great chance. Like, they're going to get most of the time their attacks. This is a really low chance. A great chance is something like 60 to 70%. So let's run back the prior footage and kind of see what we've got here. Okay, now this is just starting off the event, so I want to say it's about 2 minutes in that we get our good numbers. We'll let this event run through. So, raw, simple numbers, okay? Attack number 1, if they're in the center, is about, because remember, they only stack in one turn. They don't indefinitely stack, so the numbers are pretty static. In a central position, they will get a 10.528 million attack stat for attack number 1 at 24 key. Now, obviously it drops off a little bit because they are now at the 12 key slot. Then you're at about 7.029, followed by a 7392 and a 7762. Now, in this particular event, just each event's going to be a little bit different. But here, a non-critical hit came out to be about 56 to 57% of whatever the attack stat was, and a critical hit came out to be a little over 76% of whatever those numbers are. So, and to make this really simple, I know there's a lot of maths, but let's just say it this way. A critical hit, if we were to equate a critical hit on their standby skill, that would have been about a 20 million damage hit. Or, like I said, about 26 point... I want to do raw damage because we are calculating critical hits. So, assuming, and it's about only a 30% chance, but credit given, you're looking at about 20.276 million damage on a critical hit from that standby skill. Now, let's say, sake of argument, now you get 3 attacks instead of 4, right? Now you're talking about between 6 and 8 million, depending on whether there's a critical hit. It's a 50-50 chance for a critical hit, so I equated everything out. So you got about 7.04 million, 4.72 million, 4.94 million, and 5.193 million. Now, that last one is only there if we calculate the fact that we are going for double attack. So really, you're taking off that last 5 million. So you're talking the damage differential. Follow me here. The damage differential between getting a critical hit and getting a non-critical hit is about 5 million. The damage differential between basically doing 3 attacks and 4 attacks is about 5 million. So, literally, the two are roughly the same. Here's the exception to the matter. I did all the maths. Here. So like I said, hit number 1's about... Assuming you're about 50% critical rate, right? That's what we'd be further into the fight. Assuming that 50% critical rate, first hit is about 7 million. Second hit's 4.7. Third hit's 4.9. And last hit's just a little over 5. So, in one turn alone, there is no damage difference at all. However, for the sake of our math here, if you're at about 12 to 15 point, I guess for lack of a better way to put it, 12 to 15 points in your combo attack, you will almost always get that extra attack. Remember, every single time you roll, those 3 attacks at 24 key are going to roll each and every single time for that extra attack. So more often than not, you are going to get that double attack. So every single solitary turn that you are getting 4 attacks instead of 3, you're doing 5 million more damage than if you put critical hit in that extra skill. So literally the only benefit, and I'm not saying this for the benefit of me simply putting it out there. I'm literally saying, and the numbers, you can do the math yourself. At an equivalent 26.651 million attack stat equivalent on that standby skill, you get 15.3 mil without critical hit or 20.26 mil with a critical hit. And as I said, the extra attack's about 5 mil. Every single turn that you get a double attack, you are literally getting that damage differential. So what you can say is for every time that you put critical hit into your, just for the sake of getting that standby damage, you are alternatively hurting every turn prior to that. That's assuming you put it into critical hit instead of combo attack. Obviously, you know, you could put it into evasion instead, but for me and my personal experiences in this game, and I've been playing this game for a really long time, I would personally rather evade 3 or 4 big hits on those early damage attacks than I would ever get a critical hit on a standby skill. But that's personal opinion. That's entirely up to date. That is what the comments section is for. So, I know it's a lot of math. It's very confusing, but that's what I came out with, and I'll put all the mathematics in the comments down below. Pin that comment. You let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll be back with more Dokkan Battle coming for you guys really soon. All the numbers are right here. You can check them out for yourself.